You so much for attending our Ask Me Anything with the Eugene M. Entrepreneurship Center. My name is Ryan Lamantia. I work here in the MBA admissions office for Columbia, and I'm joined by my colleague Gabriel Mejia from the Lang Entrepreneurship Center.
Thanks so much for having me, Ryan. And hi, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're dialing in from. Looking forward to telling you about the Lang Center, the work that we do, and answering your questions.
Lovely. I'm just going to share my screen really quick, and please feel free to use the Q&A functionality. I'll be trying to answer some questions throughout, but also the bulk of today's presentation is hopefully an AMA session, so we'll definitely get to all your questions, hopefully in a live format. So just to reiterate, we're here to go over the Eugene M. Lang Entrepreneurship Center, the entrepreneurship resources available to students. We're going to hopefully dive into specific resources for the MBA XMS or the Dual MBA Executive MS in Engineering and Applied Sciences program and the specific track that these students undertake, which is the Summer Entrepreneurship Immersive track, which is specific to this group of students, but if you're here and interested in our full-time MBA program, a lot of these same resources will be applicable to you as well. So without further ado, would love to turn it over to you, Gabriel. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan. And again, hi, everyone. So first and foremost, Ryan mentioned the Lang Center, but what is the Lang Center? So we are a center at Columbia Business School, and our main purview is entrepreneurship and venture capital. So we oversee the curriculum, the co-curricular, which is programs, and resources for students who either want to be startup founders or want to invest in startups. And why is it important? Why are we on this info session? Mostly because we are one of the main resources when it comes to folks who are interested in entrepreneurship. And with a dual degree, there is that one track on entrepreneurship. So for those of you who pursue that track and participate in the Summer Entrepreneurship Immersive, that is a program that is facilitated by the Lang Center. But, what is the Lang Center? What is our mission? At a high level, our goal is to create a community of founders and funders, so founders and investors, and with a lifelong commitment to achieving social and economic progress and instilling an entrepreneurial mindset into our students. Whether it is that you are a startup founder, whether it is that you learn the skills and frameworks that startup founders use to apply that to corporate America and be kind of entrepreneurs, whether it is that you want to invest in startups, that's what we are here for, and we look forward to supporting all of our students, and then when they become alums, support them as well. So in the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about who is part of the Lang Center team. So Ryan, if you could switch to the next slide. One before that. No, before that. There you go. So the Lang Center is headed by Professor Angela Lee, who's our faculty director. She teaches courses in venture capital, innovation, and leadership. Our managing director, Lara Edmonic. And then there is myself, Frederick Gray, who's our venture capital associate, Hussein Najafi, who's the most important person. He oversees our accounting and disbursement of grants and funding. And then finally, Diego Caballero, who is our coordinator. In the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about entrepreneurship at Columbia Business School as a whole. So these are some high-level metrics for entrepreneurship at CBS. There is a misconception that Columbia Business School is mostly a finance school, that people come to CBS because they want to do finance or consulting. And while we do have a strong background in finance, and historically that may have been accurate, the reality is that entrepreneurship is alive and well at Columbia Business School. In the last 10 years, we've had over 726 venture-backed startups launched by students and alumni. 125 of those have exited. We have seen $226 billion of the venture capital private equity funds raised by CBS investors. And our startups have raised over $23 billion in funding. They've created over 50,000 jobs, and Columbia Business School has over 20 unicorn founders. And that's just the business school as itself. This doesn't account for the rest of Columbia University. Every year PitchBook releases rankings of the top entrepreneurship programs by number of founders who have raised institutional funding. The last 2 years, we have ranked in the top 5, so we're number 5. And then one of the schools is in France, so we are number 4 in the US. So you, assuming that you come to the business school for the SEI, for the MBA/MS program, you will be in good company with some amazing founders, both as your peers, but also the alumni community. And then in the next slide, I'm trying to go quickly because I know that you're here to hear from students and have your questions answered. I won't go over this entire slide, but just to give you a sense of the resources and programs that we offer our students, whether it is that they want to launch a company, so that is become a startup founder, that is that first row, invest if they want to become investors in startups, or if they have a startup already and then just want to scale that, we offer programs and resources for all 3 of those cases. We'll spend a little bit of time today talking about the Summer Entrepreneurship Immersive, but I do want to kind of double click on a couple of these resources just to get a sense of, give you a sense of what you can get at Columbia. Columbia Built Lab is a program where you are matched with engineering talent from the rest of Columbia University to help you with building your MVPs. The Line Coach Office Hours is a resource where we have a dedicated group of alumni who volunteer their time to meet with students one-on-one to give you advice and guidance. Whether you're looking to launch a startup or break into venture capital, we have a very engaged alumni population who loves giving back and meeting with students. The Venture Fellows Program is a program that's open to dual degree students in their second year. It's a fellowship program to give you the experience and knowledge to break into the VC industry. And finally, once you graduate, there's the Columbia Startup Lab, which is a co-working space that is very heavily subsidized by the Lang Center to help you with pursuing that startup idea post-graduation. But I know you're all here to learn about the Summer Entrepreneurship Immersive. So in the next slide, what does SEI comprise? So Ryan mentioned this at the beginning of the call. A Summer Entrepreneurship Immersive is a student incubator program that is specific to the students in the dual degrees or the MBA/MS. We offer 4 tiers of support. First and foremost, one-on-one advisory sessions. So while we do have the Line Coach Office Hours, which is available throughout the entire academic year, during the summer, we have an additional 50 to 60 alums that volunteer their time just to meet with students in our incubator programs. We also provide weekly talks and workshops. So last year, the program had 15 workshops that can be either done in person or virtual on a wide variety of topics, but it's really not intended to replace any one class, but rather give you an overview of different topics that are relevant to you as founders to help you get to that next stage of your journey. There are also MBA/MS roundtables. What we normally do for this population is that we will poll the students in the program to see what are particular topics they need support on, what is it they want to learn, and then we leverage those answers to schedule specific roundtables. These are small group sessions with industry speakers or faculty on the topics that people are looking to learn more about. So last summer, we had a lawyer come to speak about incorporation and IP. We've had B2B sales, also co-founder relationships. So those MBA/MS roundtables, the topics will always change because it's really tailored to what the students in the program are looking to get support on. And then finally, there's peer support and community. You know, I mentioned earlier, entrepreneurship at Columbia Business School is alive and well and thriving. The SEI program is just for the dual degree students, but we also concurrently run a program for MBA students as well. This past summer, we had 143 ventures participating in the program that is just for MBA students. But we don't want to isolate students in the MBA/MS program. So the workshops are open to both populations. The peer support and community are open to both populations. We provide opportunities to do pitch practice, networking with your fellow students and also with alumni. So our goal is not only to give you the resources to help kind of move the needle for your venture, get you to achieve milestones, but also support you in developing a community of fellow founders and also potential investors. We know entrepreneurship can be very lonely and frustrating, so we try to minimize that by providing resources and also a community of founders who will support you and can relate to what you're working on. Oftentimes we hear that founders have that difficult choice of foregoing the traditional recruiting route and that kind of safe salary when you graduate in favor of dedicating yourself to a startup idea, which is very fulfilling but also very scary. So we are here to support you by helping you develop a community and get the resources to achieve your goals. So that is it on my end. But of course, I'm happy to answer questions, but I'm going to leave it over to, I want to introduce Jacqueline Dupree and Samir Agarwal from the MBA MS program who were in the SEI program this summer and can share a little bit about their experience and also answer questions. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hey, Gabriel, and thank you so much for having us tonight. Is
Fine.
my audio coming in? Just taking a
Yeah.
meeting on campus, so apologies for any background noise. But yeah, so great to meet everyone. I'm Jacqueline, and alongside Sam, we are both second years in the MBA XMS program. This summer, through the Lang and Summer Startup Initiative, had the pleasure of working on my startup idea of Perpetua. A little bit about me. Prior to CBS, I was a software engineer and product manager in the big tech space. I had no intentions of going the entrepreneurship route and really did see myself going straight back into enterprise, into product. But like everything Gabriel and Ryan alluded to earlier, Columbia just has this fiery ecosystem of startups. And I found that since coming to Columbia, I was thinking differently. And specifically, I was thinking about what happens to our digital data after we pass away. And this idea just kept me up at night. It was all so all consuming, and it was an idea I pursued this summer and ended up founding Perpetua, winning the Lang Center grant. And now it just came from a meeting of 3 engineers who, through the Columbia Build Lab, one of the other entrepreneurial resources, are helping me really bring this idea to life. So super excited and happy to answer any questions you have.
Just to tag on to that, a bit more about myself. Prior to CBS, I also didn't really have entrepreneurial aspirations at the moment, but getting there, meeting some people, taking some classes, especially with the MBA MS engineering core, I got talking with Harry West, who's the program head, and got started on my idea. Basically, the first semester in Tough Tech, you learn about businesses that are both at the intersection of deep tech and it require multi-agency coordinations. So got interested in the second order effects of AI and looked at data centers and how you could make them more efficient and started working on that over the summer. I was planning to apply for jobs and internships, but then switched tracks pretty quickly and took the entrepreneurship route. Happy to answer any more questions.
Lovely. Thank you both so much for sharing your background. You pretty much answered my first question here, and just want to reiterate, please feel free to use the Q&A box here, but I'll get the ball rolling here. It seems like you both kind of went into this program not intending to pursue entrepreneurship, and things might have changed along the way. Was there a particular class or moment even that made you realize actually the SEI track is something that I really want to pursue?
Yeah, happy to kick it off. I think Sam alluded to it in Harry West's class, Frontiers of Tough Technology. It was the first day of school last year when Harry actually cold called on me, and he made everyone come up with startup ideas on the spot, considering your background before CBS, what you saw were the biggest challenges facing the world. So yeah, coming from and knowing the online file space really well and thinking the 2 biggest problems facing our world were the environment and what do data privacy rights look like in this AI era. He was like, okay, you have to come up with a startup idea. And I think just even going through that exercise really got me thinking in an entrepreneurial mindset and wanting to solve this problem. I like to dub it as coast energy consumption of any data we have lives on servers after we pass away, and that's not environmentally sustainable, but how do we make people care? Allowed me to work back into a digital will product that, after experiencing family loss myself, made me realize how does this not exist, and be super all in on the entrepreneurial pathway.
Yeah, I think Jackie pretty much covered it all. That was the first class she was called. I was called, I think, on the next class for the same thing. And it's like, okay, now that you've done X, your certain career, in my case, it was healthcare and venture capital. What can you think of that the world is facing, and how can you build up to that?
In the MBA
Thank you.
XMS program, students also have to take Foundations of Entrepreneurship that fall semester, which I think also just like helps build and breaks down this like dubious what is entrepreneurship, what does it mean to be a founder and a CEO, into very actionable steps, which I think for me as a very like logistics oriented person made it feel achievable in a similar way that like maybe recruiting for a job does, which built more stability into it.
Amazing. Thank you. I see a couple questions coming in here, which is wonderful. Please keep them coming. And my last question that I have prepared is just for you, Gabriel. And I'm just wondering, where do most students kind of start their engagement with the Lang Center? And would you have any recommendations on how they might come to you with any preparation?
I mean, I would say that most students start. We do an info session every fall, and we love hearing what students are working on and what they want to work and what their goals are. I would say that the earlier that you make yourself known to the Lang Center and we understand what you're working on, like what your goals are, what you're interested in, um, the more impactful your time will be here. Like, while we can't always guarantee that we always have something for you, if we're top of mind, like opportunities come up all the time, and like we'll email you. So I actually had, there was someone in the SCI program over the summer who's working on a particular startup idea, and I got a newsletter yesterday about a program that's relevant to him, and I emailed him like, hey, this might be of interest to you. So engaging with us as early as possible is what I would recommend. More formal engagement in the spring term of every year is when we start our entrepreneurship workshop series with an ideation workshop, customer discovery, and that's when we start seeing the student founders really coming and engaging with us. So I'd say those are the two answers. First, organically, people come to talk to us. And then second, for those who are very interested in entrepreneurship, when we kick off our entrepreneurship workshop series in the spring, which leads up to the summer incubator programs.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gabriel. I think that you might be best equipped to answer this next one, and we could keep it high level, but how is the Lang Center grant decided? Maybe what metrics or milestones does a startup need to achieve to receive a grant?
Yeah, and I'll say one thing that I forgot to mention. So for students who pursue the SCI program full-time, the school also provides a grant for living expenses. It'll vary every year because obviously they try to tailor it to account for inflation. But last year it was $7,500 dispersed over 3 payments. And at least it helps offset the fact that you're foregoing an internship to work on your startup idea full time. To answer this specific question about the Lang Center grant, it's 4 criteria. First, the viability of the idea, then the progress over the summer and your commitment, your plans for the next year and how you plan to use those funds, and then finally your presentation skills and team dynamic. And those grants are decided by a panel of judges that comprises both founders and investors. It's not the Lang Center itself that is making a decision.
Lovely. Thank you. And I see here you answered this question, Jacqueline, but I think it might be applicable to the broader population here. And maybe if you can dive in deeper into your decision to, how you're working with engineers versus designing your perpetuate yourself with your software background.
Totally. So like I mentioned, came up with the idea on the first day of school last year in Harry West's class. And then Foundations of Entrepreneurship, you actually get to work on a group project on a startup idea. So used Perpetua there as well. Sam joined my team. He convinced him that he was also excited at the idea and just like trying to figure out like some of the logistics. What does a business model look like? And thinking through some of the business elements. And then having been a software engineer, I liked coding. I didn't love coding. I think for me over the summer, I was like, God, the summer was critical in that it allowed me the space to think about this idea. I think at Columbia, there are constantly a million and two things going on, from club involvement to great speakers that are on campus to getting to know your classmates, your cluster, your coursework between the engineering school and the business school, that finding that dedicated time, especially because I knew I was a little rusty, having been a PM the immediate 2 years before school, to like actually write code and debug. So the summer, first off, allowed me to like dust off those muscles. And so I built the first round of the MVP myself to prove that the idea was feasible from a technical perspective. But once it started doing customer interviews and starting to gain traction, what my customers were looking for were a level of like security, like data security and protections within the product that I didn't feel best equipped to provide myself. The feature requests just kept coming in, and I knew that if this was really going to scale, I was going to need more help. So very thankful Columbia has this program called Build Lab, where they'll match you with a team of 3 engineers within the engineering school. So now have brought in these, like, one of them I'm working with is a master's student in artificial intelligence who is like crazy smart about building agentic models, and 2 are full stack developers in the undergraduate program who are just like combining their previous internship experience and working fast. And the progress we've made in the last 2 weeks alone is more than I could have done at myself as an individual, and also the time it would have taken me to relearn. So I'm excited to go back to the same customers we did discovery with later this week and really show them the progress and hear their feedback.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. And I think that for this next question, you alluded to kind of the turning point for why you pursued entrepreneurship in the Foundations of Entrepreneurship course. You previously just mentioned, club involvement and speaker series. Would just kind of like to build off this question and maybe ask, are there any particular clubs or events on campus that have really, helped you or with your entrepreneurship journey?
Totally. So I actually pursued a venture capital in-semester internship last year. And the riskiness of the startup ecosystem terrified me. And I think to an extent it still does. For full transparency, like school is expensive. And I'm trying to take advantage of every single resource Columbia has to offer, because if the startup idea cannot cover my basic living expenses upon graduation, I don't think I'll be able to pursue it full time. That said, that's a huge motivator, but also like working in doing a venture capital, I saw as a way to be connected to the startup ecosystem while like having a salary. But in that venture capital internship, I talked to so many amazing founders and realized that like, oh my gosh, I could relate to them, and there was nothing that they had that Columbia wasn't teaching me or I hadn't learned from my previous experience, which motivated me to do it myself. But I think the way to even learn about venture capital, to learn about the startup space, was the VCC or Venture Capital Club. Has so many great resources. The CEO Club, or Columbia Entrepreneurship Organization, is constantly bringing in great speakers who have tell the stories of successes, but also the stories of failures, and like how you can learn right away. I think people think of, or my impression at least, of unicorns before starting CVS was like, oh, it's these just like out of the blue people who had this like almost like this magical sense. They came up with this idea overnight, but when learning that a lot of it is systematic and can be broken down into tactical steps, it definitely made the world seem so much more approachable, and very grateful for like the leadership and the guidance from like Gabriel, all the mentors and the executives and residents along the way who have told their story and really helped me through different pivotal moments of the startup journey and my time at CVS as a whole.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Just to add to that a little bit, I think the Distinguished Speaker Series that Columbia has also been incredible. You hear from all kinds of insane people. I think Ben Horowitz came the other day. Bob Baumgart was here last year. So you get to hear from people who've made it, but also when you talk to them, it's a small enough setting where you can ask questions and talk to them, and you understand their perspectives on how they built and how they came up. And you really learn a lot about going from college to at least the venture.
Thank you. And this, I think, Gabriel, if you could address this maybe, does Lang Center, and we talked a little bit about mentors and investors and the opportunities you have, but does the Lang Center also provide specific mechanisms to find mentors and investors who are Columbia alums?
Yes and no. We do have some resources for founders as they're seeking, and looking to fundraise. But we don't provide, we do double opt-ins for introductions. So in that sense, we won't share like people's contact information. We try to be mindful of people's privacy, as Jacqueline probably can attest. That's very important. But we do offer support either by networking events with alumni throughout the academic year. We have a program, an initiative called Link, to provide founders with an opportunity to access capital and investor meetings. So in that way, yes, we provide support. And when it comes to finding mentors or advisors, that normally happens organically through the networking events, but not something that we facilitate as like a program itself.
Thank you. This is for Sam and Jacqueline from Brian. Thank you for sharing your story. But in running your ventures, what were maybe some challenges you faced this past summer, and how did the Lang Center or Columbia's program support you during those challenging moments?
I can start this off. I think building a B2B business, or at least trying to build a B2B business, is a little harder given that a lot of the regular content is focused very much towards B2C. So with the MS MBA roundtable specifically, we were able to request B2B sales experts and people who are experts in commercialization and licensing of technology. And the Lang Center was very helpful in bringing the relevant experts across for your business. And those roundtables were maybe with groups of 5-6 people. So it was a very intimate but very long session, and the most useful over the summer. So in addition to that, obviously the weekly meetings with the advisors and then the executives in residence, as Jackie already covered, just help you round out your idea and have a better sounding board than you would if you were to reach out to somebody, cold call someone.
Totally. And I mean, watching Sam go through that pivot in live time from like, oh my gosh, I'm not finding traction, to like having his idea that's going to help data centers was just like so huge. And it was super cool to see like the turnaround and so much progress you made there too, as it all came together at the end of the summer. I think another problem that I ran into, unfortunately, I think this is really tough. It's like, so I admit it, I did worked on my idea in some classes. I also entered a pitch competition at the Lang Center. The Lang Center will put on various pitch competitions throughout the year. And for one of them, you needed a team of 4. So building a team of 4 and going into the summer with like this team where people have different skill sets and you bring them on because they are free and they want to do this pitch competition in April. But then who has the skill sets or the passion or the drive to continue with an idea full time, I think led to some founder conflict, which I've come to learn is actually really untalked about, but also like one of the main reasons that technically viable ideas don't move forward. And it was through the MBA XMS roundtable, like Sam mentioned, where it was like they had a psychologist come and talk to us about how do you make it through and how do you go through like realizing like a lot of the people you end up joining these teams with, or you think there might be a co-founder, a lot of them are your friends. And it's just like, how do you draw the line between friendship outside of an idea and startup, and making the decision of like, oh, well, we took this class together, but does that mean we're actually the best people to build this venture together? From the team of 4, now we're down to 3. We might be down to 2 soon as we think about like what are different priorities that we have in life, and what might have been that serendipitous moment that we were both free at that one time might not continue into like we both have the same long-term goals. And it's difficult and I hate conflict, so it's been personally very challenging, but I think having the support of Lang and also the other like students in the program and the entrepreneurial space to like bounce ideas off of has been really lovely.
I definitely agree with that. Those sessions were really useful in watching Jackie go through the whole ups and downs of the venture and trying to see where incentives aligned or didn't align was interesting because you see it real time.
I'll
Thank
just
you
add,
both.
I'll just add to that. We see that very often with co-founding teams. And the way that I see it, the analogy that I like to use is a startup is a baby. Like you don't have a baby with someone before, like you decide like I can actually raise this child with this person, or at least maybe you should have those conversations. But yeah, you do need to make sure that like incentives are aligned and that people's working styles mesh well and that people have the same goals. I've seen founders who want, for one person, this was a kind of side gig, and for another person, this was like they're going to be full time and they're going to work on this and this is what they're going to focus on. So we try to support as much as possible with making those connections, providing those resources for people to navigate these kind of very difficult conversations.
For the next question, I can answer some of this myself too, but the prospective student is, I was wondering if the MBA XMS program is more academically rigorous than the MBA program, and if so, how do you maybe manage academics while working on your startups at the same time? So I'll defer to Jacqueline and Sam for the second half, but in terms of the rigorousness of the curriculum, I think you just have to go in with the understanding that it is a different curriculum than the full-time MBA program. This program is a little more technically focused. You would be taking classes in the Graduate School of Engineering, focusing on much different subject matter in addition to taking the MBA curriculum, as all full-time MBA students would. In terms of the MBA curriculum, it would be the same in terms of the core CBS classes, in terms of financial accounting, corporate governance, and things like that. In addition to, again, those technical classes at the School of Engineering. So in short answer is, I would say it's no more academically rigorous. We're looking for the right candidates for this program who are interested in becoming technical product managers, going into entrepreneurship fields, who are looking to blend these two fields together. But maybe Jacqueline, Samir, you can address how you're managing, running and operating these companies while pursuing your academics as well.
I think it seems a lot easier in the first year than it does in the second, because the second year you get hit with like Ryan just said, the graduate level engineering courses, which if like some of us, you haven't been in the engineering space in a while, takes a little while to exercise those muscles again. Lots of homework, lots of studying at night, trying to catch up. I'm currently in 3 this semester, so 2 of them are relatively straightforward, and one of them I know nothing about. And I am going through the classes and trying to basically catch up on everything I did in undergrad and then get up to a graduate level. Not to say that it isn't useful, because it's directly relevant to what I want to build. So that's what keeps me going to class, even though everybody around is way smarter and they understand it more intuitively. But I think for me, it's more about I'm trying to look at the business side of it and trying to ask questions in class that pertain more to the viability from a business side, not as much the engineering side. But I feel like professors on the engineering campus, sorry, are more open to those discussions, because a lot of their research is funded by these companies that you're trying to either work with or partner with. So for them, it's I would say, at least from my experience, it's been refreshing for them to at least speak to a different element of what they normally asked about the technical nature of their field. So I've had a lot of very productive conversations with like the professors on what the future of this industry is, where they see the latest technology, where they see the money going in, what their research pertains to in terms of commercialization, and where they're looking at the next field of growth. So I think that's been really good, because that's a different part of the equation that you bring, being both in the business school and the engineering school. You kind of get to have one foot in both, or one finger in both pies, so to speak. So it's been good. It's not easy, but if you take the classes that are relevant to you and not just try to breeze through them just from a grades perspective, then I think you can really get a lot out of it.
+1 to Sam's experience. The engineering courses I think are challenging. I think my mindset coming into this master's degree was different also than my mindset coming into undergraduate. In undergraduate, I think I was more GPA motivated. Also thinking that a high GPA would get me a great internship, which would land me a full-time job, versus now realizing like ultimately I want to make sure I understand this and I retain the information. So 10 years down the line, I can pull up the concepts or I know how to apply them, versus coming out of my undergraduate degrees, like I don't know that I necessarily remembered and retained as much. I think Columbia has great non-disclosure, which is nice and allows us to really focus on that conceptual understanding, knowing that no one's going to see your GPA, I think has given me that peace of mind almost that I can, like in natural language processing right now, which is like bringing back like linear algebra, which I think it's been 10 years since I've last done. It's like, it's okay if I don't understand every mathematical proof, as long as I understand how this is going to apply to my business and to my, like Sam said, those business settings and my future life. It is more credits. I think the dual degree, so by nature of that, then compared to a regular MBA, it is going to take more time. So I think there is a rigor in that sense. But I think if you're passionate about both the technical spaces and the business spaces, you should go for it. And that passion will drive you to go the extra mile and complete it all.
Thank you. For this next question, it's admissions related, so happy to take this one. But is this program, is it required that you apply to both schools, essentially, two separate applications or one? In that regard, it is one application. You would be applying to CBS, the business school, as well as C's, the School of Engineering, at the same time. The application is hosted by Columbia Business School. It is reviewed, however, by both schools in terms of what kind of prospective students we're looking for the program. But to reiterate, it's just one application that you would be applying for this program. If one of the schools does feel like you are a better fit for one of the standalone programs, whether it be the MBA or a standalone MS program, they may proactively reach out to you. But unfortunately for this program, it would be admitted to it or not. So hope that helps clarify. For this next question, I think kind of getting at the heart of it is, are there any unique advantages of being in New York here? And what resources is New York able to provide compared to Silicon Valley's entrepreneurial ecosystem and Boston, Cambridge's research-driven ecosystem?
Happy to take a stab at it first. I've lived in San Francisco and done an internship there. San Francisco, and since I've gone back for work in like the post-COVID era compared to 2019, it feels like the energy is, from my perspective, was not there as much. I don't know if it was the pandemic hitting or the fact that the Silicon Valley boom really was in like the early 2010s. I think everyone in not everyone, a large portion of the people in San Francisco moved there for the tech ecosystem. And I think there has been like some migration back to hometowns. I think there's a reason why New York is like such a quintessential city. And I think we have seen a ton of venture capitalists, specifically those who like have previously built themselves up on Sand Hill Road and served as partners with these like larger firms and now want to prove to themselves that they can do it on their own, that they can replicate that. We've seen a migration of like venture capital dollars in terms of how does it impact the entrepreneurial ecosystem leave. I mean, it will always be Silicon Valley. It will always be like the heart, but I think it's been really cool to see a lot of new funds and firms popping up in the New York area and seeing the rise of the entrepreneurial community here. I think New York and the East Coast as a whole has a different energy than the West Coast. It is a little bit more transactional, but I think it's more fast-paced. Everyone is so incredibly driven. And that go, go, go mentality, I think, has really helped to relight the fire under me to bring this idea to life. And I think just the diversity of speakers. I also talked about, I know the question also mentioned, like, how have we been taking advantage of like New York as a whole? The number of speakers that are just in the New York system. New York Tech Week was a blast. Speakers from different industries are coming here for conferences, like the UN is headquartered here, like just the amount of exposure from a diverse perspective, instead of just hearing that traditional voice that I think is attracted to the San Francisco area, has allowed me to really think cross-functionally. about my startup idea and provided different, especially policy perspectives that I would have otherwise considered, and really helped me think differently.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I'll take this next question. It's regarding a student who is currently enrolled in the MS in Engineering program. So rather niche and specific to you, but happy to address your question, Shrey. Unfortunately, you can apply. You can apply for the Dual MBA XMS program. Unfortunately, the credits that you may have taken in your MS program already would not transfer in. You would be starting as a new student just to complete this curriculum in whole. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but just want to be transparent with you there. This next question is relatively the same, but a little different though. Just in regards to how we approach reviewing applications, yes, it is a holistic approach in reviewing application. There's no one specific piece of the requirements that you can see listed on our website that is a standout or make a break for an applicant. Truly everything from your resume, your work experience, your GMAT score, the interview that you may be invited to undertake, your essays, it's all treated equally in terms of candidates that we're looking for this program. As I kind of mentioned earlier, it is a niche program. It is an MBA and an MS program in one. So we're looking for students who are really looking to blend the technical acumen and build upon that skill set, in addition to leveraging the MBA curriculum and leaning into that and becoming leaders in the technical space, whether that be, again, going back to technical product manager roles, being your own entrepreneurship, building your company, going on to chief technology officer type roles, really leveraging both of these degrees. So holistic approach is what we will look for. And I'll take this next question too regarding a GMAT score waiver. Unfortunately, there is no waiver in that regard for this program. We do require a GMAT or a GRE. If you have taken a look at some of our other programs, for example, the full-time MBA program, they also offer the opportunity to take the executive assessment. That is not the case for this program. To reiterate, just the GMAT or GRE. For this next question, I'm going to read it aloud so in real time. I'm actually flying in to visit the campus in a couple of weeks on October 15th. Well, awesome. We look forward to hosting you on campus to get a tangible feel for the community. My question is, for a prospective student on campus, what's the best way to observe the real entrepreneurial energy at CBS? Highly recommend that if there's a class visit opportunity to take advantage of, definitely take advantage of that. Jacqueline, please. I see your hand.
So October 15th is actually during the exam period, at the end of a term. So unfortunately, bad week to visit. That being said, I think there might be some of us who are still around. All the first years will be in their A-term finals. There are no CBS courses. But
And years will be on vacation during that week, so because they don't have exams.
some of the MBA XMS students will actually be around.
Okay.
There is the AI final or midterm is the next day. So if you send Ryan an email, he can connect you with some of us who are still in town, and maybe we can do an informal visit.
Yes. Thank you so much for clarifying. I'll jump down to this next one. I was wondering, in this course, how you have contributed to the class? Did you contribute in both programs? I'm trying to get a sense of what you're asking here, Faisal. Apologies. I guess I'll rephrase this another way, but how do you feel a part of both of the communities? Being a student in two different graduate schools, but being in one program, do you feel that you're able to take advantage of both sets of resources at both schools? Do you feel like you are an MBA student? Do you feel like you're an MS student, or do you feel like you are an MBA XMS student?
Happy to take a first stab at answering. In terms of involvement, it's really great being able to pick and choose which resources from which school you use. I had to say, I feel like one more than another, I would probably say MBA more than MS. And I think the reason for that is I think it's partially stage of life. I think most people in the engineering school come out of undergrad. Maybe it's a 4+1, maybe it's just a master's, maybe it's they're a PhD student and they're wicked smart. But I think in terms of having had real world experience in an industry and then really trying to apply that more with the business mindset, I think my head aligns more with some of the MBA students. I tended to join more MBA oriented clubs, though I am also a member of the Society of Women Engineers. And I think that's just also maybe influenced my personal perspective. I think the nice part about it is really you get to bend and mold the programs in the way that best works for you. For the folks applying to internships, for example, I know some of the folks who were recruiting, let's say for consulting, they went through engineering school, and because like let's say it's like Bain, BCG, McKinsey, if they come to both campuses, well, if you could talk the business language compared to the engineering students, like that just puts you a step ahead. Then maybe if you're and those who are trying the entrepreneurial pathways, like going through the Lang Center and the business school resources, like it was maybe an easier sell to Gabriel that I knew how to manage an engineering team because I was an engineer and in the MBA XMS program. Of the MBA XMS students that did the summer assertive track, most of us did get grant funding. I think because we were able to like balance both sides and leverage, hey, we had this technical question, we had resources in engineering who we could tap on the shoulder and like understand, for example, in maybe Sam's case, like professors he could tap into and really understand the tech at a deeper level with his startup idea. So I think just having access to both has been a blessing, such a blessing, even though it can also make some of that decision fatigue of, oh my gosh, there's so many events happening. Which one is the best for me to go to at any one moment? Sometimes a little harder in the day to day.
I don't know how you all navigate all of the probably dozens of emails you get every day with opportunities from clubs and like just different centers and OSA. There's so much going on every day.
Yes.
That's true.
Thank you so much. Didn't mean to cut you off, Sam.
No, I was just saying that's true. It's just there's a lot going on all the time. The campus groups calendar is always full of events. You need to really pick the one you want to go to instead of like trying to go to everyone. I think we've all been guilty. The moment you get to campus, you're like, I'm gonna make the most of my time by going to as many events as possible. And then very quickly, 2 weeks later, you're like, maybe I'll just go to this one a week. So
Great, thank you. And thank you, Sam, for taking the time to answer another one of our questions. I think it's applicable to a broader audience here, so just want to reiterate it. Whether, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, this is an excellent program for you to look into further, the Dual MBA XMS program. But want to reiterate, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, the full-time MBA program is also an option for you. There's plenty of ways to connect with like-minded people on campus, who are interested in this field through coursework that is offered in the full-time MBA program or the dual MBA XMS program, through the clubs that are here on campus as well. So again, if you are interested in entrepreneurship, there are plenty of ways to get engaged with the Eugene M Entrepreneurship Center and continue to pursue that path. And then the last question here I see is just regarding the application process again. So want to reiterate, it is one application that you'll be completing and applying to both schools through this one application. You do not need to complete two separate applications for the MBA program and a separate application for the MS program. The application is hosted by Columbia Business School. So please navigate to the Columbia Business School website and you'll be able to fill out your singular online application there. So that's it for the questions I see in the inbox, and I know we're coming up on time here, so I'll just want to wrap things up with one final question for you all, if you don't mind. Having recently gone through the Summer Entrepreneurship Immersive Program, is there anything looking back upon your summer that you may have approached differently, or a resource maybe you didn't take advantage of, or think you could have leaned into a little further?
That's a
Didn't
good
mean to stump you.
No, I think it's a good question. I think I would have definitely taken more advantage of the executives in residence, and tried to follow up with them more often as I did. Um, yeah, I think, and maybe say the same with the MS MBA roundtables. I think that could have been a good combination of factors. In addition to that, I feel like I've already developed some close relationships with the professors who were the advisors, and like constantly in communication with them. So definitely during the semester, I'm taking more advantage. But when you're the only one working on the venture at Columbia in the summer, it feels like you can do a lot more than what you end up doing. You feel like you can spend more time working.
Yeah, I think people always thank you notes. I wish I sent more thank you notes. I think it's um this session today reminded me of all the amazing people that the Lang Center exposed us to, from those who helped me, like the executives and residents who helped me navigate some of my conflicts, to like the lawyers that they brought in to like navigate the incorporation process. I think sending notes of appreciation is a great way to stay top of mind, especially to potential venture capitals as I'm planning if I want to raise a round in the future, to update them with the progress. So I think I'm actually going to take that now. The other thing I wish I took advantage of more is I think tying up loose ends. What I've come to learn from a recent Lang session is that when you raise a round, you do need to like have anyone who's ever contributed to the idea have like NDAs signed and everything. So having having the opportunity to build on my idea through different Columbia resources, such as the Foundations of Entrepreneurship class. I took another entrepreneurship class at Columbia. Now I'm like tracing down loose ends, trying to get people to sign NDAs and figure out everything from a legal perspective. So I think I wish having that time in the summer, having learned so much from the roundtables, that I acted on those and sooner.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Gabriel, for sharing the tremendous amount of resources that are available to students, whether it be this dual MBA XMS program and pursuing the summer entrepreneurship immersive, or the startup track and all the wonderful resources that you're able to provide students interested in various stages of their entrepreneurship journey. Thank you, Jacqueline, Samir, for providing your experiences within the program and all your insights. I know that they're tremendously valuable. I appreciated learning, and I know that our attendees here today did as well. So thank you again. And if you'd like to stay in touch, please don't let the conversation end here. If you have other questions, please feel welcome to reach out to our office. We're always here and happy to help you. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon or evening.